8:15, I will call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll begin with approval of the agenda, and we will need a 10-minute executive
Yes.
session.
Potential litigation, it'll be 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
No actions anticipated.
Any other changes to the agenda? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, with approval of the minutes of the special meeting of July 9th, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 12th, and approval of claims for July 23rd.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
I did want to make one comment.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, go ahead.
So I just, I'm ready to approve, but I just wanted to say that, I, through some follow-up with Chris, one of the things I discovered is that, we're making, incremental progress with, achieving some cost savings on pump rebuilds and things like that. And, there's, we have a particular vendor that seems to be really helping in that direction, this Delta. Is it just Delta?
Yeah, we got some good quotes from them. That's who we executed with for the.
They're doing
I
some
had
rebuilds.
5 rebuilds.
And just coming up with good solutions for us to cost optimize our plant rebuilds. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay. And so I was looking at the payroll reports yesterday, and yours and mine, and I'm not sure yours, but our per diems for this month will actually be posted next month. So it's going to look like we have a lot next month, but that's because they weren't.
Yeah, because I think the deadline was the 15th instead of the 16th, and I didn't know that.
And then I was out of the office and I think Jamie, yours was timely and I didn't forward.
Yeah,
So
but
that one's on
yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just so next month you'll see a bunch of them and not as many this month. Okay. Did you second?
I'll second it now. Yeah, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to public comment.
Nothing here.
Nothing here. Okay. Anyone online?
I can hear you speaking though.
I don't see any hands raised. There'll be another opportunity towards the end of the meeting for public comment. Okay, and now for the general manager's report.
All right. So first thing is Friday, we are going to have our special called meeting on roles and responsibilities. It'll be at the Blaine City Hall Council Chambers from 1 to 3, in person only, and I'll be sending out the official notice tomorrow morning.
And we're gonna make sure we invite the candidates as well.
Yeah, we'll have the same invite list we did last time.
Thank you.
The second thing, just real quick, remember we did the Markets 101? Ironically, I got a email from Skagit PUD last night. We're not in the electric market. And George wanted me to come down and talk to their staff about the electric markets. So he thought I'd be a good person to provide the update. And that's the good news. The bad news is that it conflicts with something that's already on the calendar. I really want it. And so I go out to the general managers meeting in the Energy Northwest Public Power Forum in October, on October 24th, which is the same date as the Skagit. So George won't be going to that. He'll be doing. So anyway, just to let you know, I said it's ironic because I've got a slide deck that I can modify and, pretty easily at this point, give you a presentation without too much prep. And so anyway, I'll be doing that eventually down there.
I really appreciated the Markets 101
Yeah.
and the Broadband 101. I think we're really lucky to have such sharp cookies on our team.
Well,
to
thank you.
Explain things to us. And I can't wait for our next
Friday.
one.
And then it's not on the agenda for me to talk about because we won't set it until the next meeting probably, but we'll be doing the long-term water plan next.
Okay.
And that's a prep for the budget. Clearly, if you've got a 15-year capital plan, the budget's the first year of that. So you got to understand what we're trying to do and how it all fits. So that's going to be upcoming. And then last thing I wanted to update you on was last week I was down in Portland at the WPP meeting. The purpose behind that meeting was to establish a planning group and a transmission study group that would put together a long-range transmission study for the Western Interconnect. And so this is something that hasn't been done since Columbia Grid went defunct 5 or 6 years ago. The problem was always, once you have a plan, how do you allocate the costs? And if some utility that doesn't directly benefit from this project has to make an investment in order to make the thing work and make it efficient, you know, in organized RTO-driven markets like we talked about last week or the week before, it's really simple. The cost allocation's there. Everybody's agreed to it. You move on. People, if they don't like it, they can file lawsuits, and that happens. But generally, it just happens. We don't have that in a bilateral market without an RTO in the West. So this is kind of one of those steps. I'm happy to say that the study plan itself that they're putting together looks really good. And there were about 30 transmission planners from all kinds of different organizations there. There were a few from Public Power, John Martinson from PUD. There was a fellow I didn't know from Seattle City Light. There was somebody there from eWeb. And then all the other planners that were there were a few from Bonneville, but it was Puget Sound Energy, Arizona Public Service New Mexico, PG&E. It was all the big investor owners that were there, and they all want to get a regional plan together. And the last thing I'll say about this is the plan, as it started about 6 months ago, was to put together a 10-year and 20-year transmission plan. And since then, FERC has mandated that all the regions have a 20-year plan. So it's interesting that we were kind of out in front, and nobody knew that FERC was going to do that. I mean, there was rumors that was going to be part of what their ruling was, but that wasn't, it wasn't known that was what was going to happen. So it's interesting that we end up with something that is aligned with the FERC order. Now, since we're not an RTO, it's not compliant with the FERC order because it's not. So there is that, but it's interesting that the West concluded we need a 20 years of transmission plan. And so that's what's going on. So I'll pause and answer any questions.
Yeah, you should also mention, right, that we have a new hire, right? So congratulations for that.
And you will see Lisa Moeller will be on board August 1st. You'll see her in our first meeting next month. So yes, I'm excited about that.
So do we have any issues with the place we took that person?
Lots.
Lots of it.
Yeah.
That's the potential litigation.
No, Chris called and I assured him there were no issues and knew Lisa well and was already aware and said, good, if that's your choice, it's a good selection.
Yeah, and I will say we had, and this was a surprise. I was really hoping to have one, maybe two good candidates out of however many people applied. We only had 10 people apply, and I was very, very worried. 5 of them looked great on paper, and then there were a couple that were pretty good. We chose to talk to all 5 that looked good on paper, and in person, they were phenomenal. I could have drawn a name out of the hat, and it would have been great. So being in the position of choosing was remarkable, and Lisa was definitely our top choice, and it was a unanimous decision by the interview panel. We were delighted she said yes. Had she turned us down, we had great people that were, on the list right behind her. So, yeah, it was a great place to be as a hiring organization.
The other position now, you're going to kind of wait a little bit.
Yeah,
because whenever you hire somebody, you've got a lot of work to do, right?
Well, there's that. The other part of it was the list itself has not been as robust for the clerk / records person. So part of what we got to do is figure out what kind of additional outreach we need to do, how we need to conduct that. Is the job priced right? Is there something wrong with how we've structured it? There's a million things, and I'm just about to have somebody on board who can help work on all of those questions, actually knows what she's doing and can dig right in and sort that out for us. So I'm just kind of holding off on the clerk records position until Lisa gets on board.
I don't know what to our new people that much work.
So
Not in your case.
Yes.
No, yeah, you're rising to the occasion, Todd. Don't take that
It's
personally.
individual specific.
You said WPP, is that Western Power Pool?
Yes.
Okay. Is that similar to the Southern Power Pool SPP?
It's broader than that.
Okay.
It actually represents all of the members of WEC.
Okay,
So SPP is a member of WEC.
and remind me again what Western,
Western Energy, something.
okay. And RTO, remind me that one.
That's a regional transmission organization. And so an RTO, just real briefly, is it's an organization that's formed where all of its members essentially pledge the operation of their transmission into that organization. So, we would stand back and the RTO would say, okay, open that switch, close that switch, you're going to flow load through here. And they would actually operate your system and you allow them to do that. So it's a profound step for a transmission owner to take, but it has some enormous benefits in the long run.
Will we be doing anything like that with the hydrogen facility at the former Intalco site, or will they be not using our capacity at all?
That's a really complex question.
Okay.
I will just say that BPA cannot sell directly to a industrial customer.
Okay.
They have to have a utility in between. And we have volunteered and everybody agrees for us to be that utility in between. And what that looks like, whether it's just owning a meter or whether we have to have a bus section and a breaker, we don't know yet. Okay. Or we're going to build another substation next to it. And, that yet to be determined. Okay.
So just to clarify, SPP is a RTO, correct?
They are in their area. They're in the Eastern Interconnect. They are an RTO.
And but Western Power Pool is not an
There
RTO.
is no RTO in the West.
Yeah.
I
So-
shouldn't say that.
So it's
Cal-
more of an
Cal ISO.
organization. Is it fair to say it's more, WPP is more of an organization that's not an RTO, but that still helps coordination?
Yeah, it's a voluntary organization at this point. And
Could it become an?
it could be the basis for an RTO. Yeah, that's my hope. But there's a lot of steps that have to happen between here and there.
Yeah, we'd have to convince California.
No,
And- No, we wouldn't have to convince California and SPP to join WEP?
well, first of all, SPP has already expressed an interest in doing just that, so it's not a matter of convincing them. Cal ISO is happy to join any RTO that's run by California, and that is the problem. And Cal ISO, I expect, will end up looking just like ERCOT. That there will be, there's the Eastern Interconnect, the Western Interconnect, and ERCOT. At the end of the day, there'll be the Eastern Interconnect, the Western Interconnect, ERCOT, and Cal ISO. And California is a whole other country. Right? And I think that's the way it's going to end up. I can't imagine that the people of California are going to give up all of the advantages that they have in Cal ISO, and because Cal ISO is an ISO and an RTO.
Well, yeah, there's advantages to playing team ball.
They don't see it that way.
No.
That for them, team ball means that we are able to extract whatever we want from the Western market and funnel it to California. And that's okay. And if you want to be on our team, that's the price. Not that I have any views or opinions on
No,
this.
no, you don't have any experience either with that stuff.
Is that it for the general
That's it for
manager's
the
report?
general manager.
Okay. Moving on to old business, we will start with broadband. That'd be you, Andrew. Yes.
Morning, commissioners, John. So brief update today. Everything's moving along just fine with our design engineering firm. We're at a point now where we have enough of the design work done. We're ready to go out for material procurement. So what we'll be doing in the next few weeks is soliciting bids through a competitive process to procure some of the major fiber equipment that we'll need for the Point Roberts broadband project. So you'll see contract come through in probably 2 commission meetings from now. So there's enough time for folks to bid. So that's what we're working on now. Any questions?
Do you need any support from us on this subject?
I think we're okay.
Okay,
Great.
great.
All right, thanks.
That's a quick update. Thank you.
Quick adjudication update. Anything you want to say before we go into
Oh,
executive session?
I'm sorry, can I take a step back? It would be great to hear an update for what's going on at the port, not today, at our next meeting, just to,
At the port?
how their projects are going, coming along.
Oh, okay.
If we-
Yeah, Gina gives us that every week.
Yeah,
So we
it'd
can
be
share
great to
that.
get an update on what the ports are, how their, build outs are going to.
Right. In fact, I can ask Gina to attend.
Sure,
and-
yeah,
And she could present and let you know exactly where the port is and everything.
great. When it
So,
works for her, yeah.
It may not be the next
Yeah,
meeting,
whenever.
but we'll try and do that periodically.
Thank you.
Adjudication update, here we brief, the primary thing I mentioned here is they're still receiving statements of interest on the case management committee. But the court has asked for, no decisions on the case management committee been made yet. The hearing is set for August 26th. A lot of questions about what ecology's proposal or is or what it means. So there'll be some debates about that, and parties may not want to object to the claim form and how that will be processed, but that'll all be addressed on the 26th. It's interesting, the court's order about the statement of interest in the case management committee said claimants could make the request, but we've seen 3 or 4 non-claimants, people who would express no interest in our water right, have expressed interest in being on the case management committee. So the concern is they're just disruptors to the process. And I'm not sure how the court will take that by, on one hand, wanting to be all inclusive, but including people who have no interest in, other than maybe political, personal, but not any water right claim interest.
Well, John, the encouraging thing there is the initial rulings that the judge made.
2 weeks ago.
So
So we'll see.
yeah.
That is all for you. Oh, I would just say I've been asked to speak at Waputa with following municipal law update to give an update on the next step adjudication of the water meeting in late September. Trying to figure out the dates.
I think it's at around September 18th.
Yeah, I have the dates on my
Oh.
calendar. I don't know what date. The
Maybe
presentation.
And then isn't there a follow-up water workshop the next week?
I think that's the one I'm speaking.
It is the
Ah.
one, yeah.
Okay.
Water week?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that-
the-
Water
Yeah, it's the one
workshop
over in
is-
Spokane, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like 20, I'm gonna go, it's like the 25th or 27th, and I don't know which day they want to speak.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and typically they organize that around 2 or 3 days of presentations. So, the speaker's availability and they fly people in. It's a big deal.
we come.
I am. And they only hold that, I think, every other year. It's not, we didn't have them last year. Waputa is more electric focused than water focused. When they do focus on the water, they really focus on it. So it's
And
nice.
especially these days, I think I really support that on your part. Since on that subject, on adjudication. I also want to say is that, when, of course, we all, had the experience of Liz, and the team visiting, and in the water committee meeting, again, I repeated this point about, support and hopeful that this new hire that Brookwood has made will be supportive of us in that regard, and I just want to share that. So I'm hoping that Brookwood will be coming more up to speed in supporting the PUD organization's water policy. Well, it's not that they don't do a good job. I just being a little selfish. That we could use even more support.
Okay. Geothermal.
So I think you'll recall that we got 3 responses to the request for pre-feasibility study proposals. They were very different responses, which is kind of surprising. And Andrew and I had taken a look at it. We kind of had our favorite, but the NUCSAC went one step further, and they got a whole bunch of people from Sandia, from Cal Berkeley, from PNNL, Idaho National Labs. I mean, there were some amazing people on the evaluation committee, and their recommendation was different than the one that I wanted. So it's like, no, you got the right people in there, and they've looked at this and they said, this is the real deal, go with that. And so anyway, on Monday, we'll be meeting with the successful bidder to start talking about negotiating a contract. And Andrew and I'll be tied up Monday afternoon on that. So it is exciting. So,
It sounds really good. The whole process sounds good too.
yeah, so that's it, one step forward, nothing on the leases, nothing on any of the permits or anything yet.
Great. Okay, strategic planning update.
So I have no update on this other than we were going to keep it here just so that it was a placeholder and to remind folks the roles and responsibilities has a lot to do with what you want in your strategic plan. So after
Yeah.
Friday, it's going to be more appropriate. And then we're going to start scheduling these meetings in the fall. Not through the summer, but we'll just leave it here for its update. Oh, one other thing I forgot on the general manager report. I'm going to restructure the agendas a little bit. They're going to look different next time. Not much. I'm just moving the general manager's report down to the operation report, commission report. So we'll have new business, old business, and then a series of reports.
Okay. Sounds good to me. New business, none anticipated.
We're bringing none to you this time.
All right, okay. Then I will move on to the operations report.
I think we have Kurt available for that. And here he is.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm here to talk about, last week at D Station, we had a very busy week, and D Station is where our main distribution point is for BP. That's out, so that would be off of Alder Grove Road from straight out from Plant 2. And what we're planning, we're doing some pre-work for the flow and control project, which is kind of almost like a whole rebuild of the D Station. And so what we did was we were kind of setting up a bypass for the BP line. Can you see pictures there?
No, we don't have your screen.
There we go.
Here we go.
So you see that trench with the piping there?
Yep.
Yes, okay, thanks. So like I think I can zoom in for you a little bit. That red valve, that's gonna be the shut off, or that is a shut off for BP bypass line to their ponds. And so that black HDPE pipe runs out of our yard, and then BP took it from outside of there. And so that red valve is a new installation that was put in last week by contractors. And then what we did is you can see that red valve in the background, and then the black cylinder, that's the line stop. And come out of that black cylinder, it drops down the line stop, which shuts off our main valve, our main pipeline, which is, you can see some red and some dirt down below the black cylinder. There's another picture of it there. This is the BP bypass that runs out to their ponds. And the reason we did all that is they're disassembling it there. It's blind stop. And so really the point was to get all these valves, all those blue valves are all new, and those can all be shut off. In the foreground is the pipeline that runs out, the standard pipeline that runs out to BP. And actually we're back online with that pipe. The work is done. So what we'll be working on for the flow and control, which actually goes out to bid next Friday, is, can't quite see it. It's in the background of this picture here. There's off to the right, there's a kind of a whitish gray valving system. So the valve there is an 18-inch ball valve that's been in since the 1970s. And the problem with it is that it doesn't close all the way. So we couldn't actually do the D Station work because that valve wouldn't close. So we did this line stop work last week to install those three new blue valves so we can shut off water and then do the flow and control work. So we had a very busy week. We had I think we had about 6 contractors on site every day. Garrett and the water operators were out there long hours every day last week, but we got all that stuff installed, and it went off quite well.
And Kurt, weren't they out there virtually all night on Thursday night?
Thursday night they finished about 10 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, these were some long nights,
Yeah.
long days.
Just a few questions. Curiosities. First is I see wheels, meaning that these valves can be shut off manually.
They can.
Correct.
And I noticed that in the pictures of the trenching, it was right angles, and one of the things, I'm sure there's reason for how it's been done. But one of the things I learned about plumbing was about the need to not do right angles as far as turbulence and hard, you know, the impact that has on lifetime of plumbing and piping. And that may not be true in the situation, but I'm just curious what.
Yeah, so in plant, that's an issue because typically you have smaller diameter. You get laminar flow in these big systems pretty easily. So the number one, the right angles matter less. Second thing is, as just a practical matter, you've got to shore these things. And if you curve the trench line, then you have trouble shoring. And so you want to square off everything, make it nice and neat, and you can shore the daylights out of it, and that keeps everyone safe when they're working in the
Right, so
trench.
those 90 degrees will have thrust blocks, and the thrust blocks are essentially, they just pour big concrete footings on the outside of the angles to alleviate that strain.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kurt?
Thanks, Kurt.
Well, thank your
Good, that's
team
all I
for
have.
all the hard work they put in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, commissioner reports. I hear Todd has a lot for us.
Should I go last then?
No, go
No.
ahead, go ahead, go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Went to my first WAPUDA meeting and had a really great experience. Before I left, I got a tour of Raider Farms by Brad Raider. We did a truck tour. That was pretty interesting. I got to see their IQF, their individual quick frozen plant, and also look through their fields. It was interesting to see the difference in the variations of the different strains of the berries that they're growing, between the amount of robustness in the plant. I wouldn't have really thought that. So that was interesting to see, and chatted a little bit. I learned that the orangeness in the ditches out by Linden is all of the iron in the water out there. So that was interesting. But on to the WAPUDA meeting. We started off with a tour of the dam. They have 2 dams out there. They have a 512-foot earthen dam that is run by Pacificor, and they get about 200 and some megawatts of power out of that. And then all of the water from there goes into a channel, and that channel then is it's like an irrigation canal, actually, but a lot bigger. And then that flows out and through a powerhouse that Cowlitz County PUD has. And they've actually bypassed the old riverbed completely. And so there is a section of the riverbed that is completely drained and not flowing anymore. And that occurred back in the 50s. They built that whole setup. And the Cowlitz PUD gets about 73 megawatts out of theirs, with the exact same amount of water flow. So that tells you the difference between the head of the water. Anyhow, that was interesting to see that. And then we got into the meetings, and we had a lot of different meetings there. There was the water committee, there was the energy committee. I think the highlight for a lot of people was the presentation by the BPA, Bonneville Power Administration's administrator, John Hairston. And while I won't go into specific details about what John talked about, I did come away with some really great quotes, so that I'll share. Let's see here. First one was, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk. And you can be at the table or you can be the meal. And it's how you make people feel getting there. And he finished with, the only thing I could do by myself in this job after day one is fail. And I think that really summed up the teamwork aspect that he brought and was really focused on. So that was great to listen to him. He's a great speaker. He really, it was impressive with just listening to him. He has a great mannerisms. And then from all of the other meetings, I pulled a few notes and a couple of questions that came out of that. Does Whatcom PUD get clean energy credits from the CCA? So that was a question that came up that I wanted to see if we have any capacity to get. Or do we have the ability to get any? And then should we look at going forward in the future with any messaging that we provide to our ratepayers? Do we comply with the CCA and the PDC messaging requirements? And should there be a disclaimer on our bills or communications?
Can I?
Yeah.
So that whole disclaimer issue is if you're getting CCA grant money and you need to do this and specifically it's a disclaimer that you need to have for your residential customers. We only have a single electric customer. It's the refinery. So, you know, we can do all those disclosures with them and in fact do.
Okay, great. Just notes I took that down.
This is from government
So
relations.
just to also to address that, so Chris and I spoke about that, and people from the state have encouraged Whatcom PUD to consider that, and the conversation we've had in the previous commission meeting is about the compliance requirements for getting CCA credits also introduces to compliance, not just with CCA, but also with CETA. And by that dual compliance requirement is probably an administrative, according to our GM, overhead that would negate the benefits of the revenue credits. But Chris, I just got an idea, and I'll talk to you about it later.
It sounds yes.
No, about how we might be able to pass on those credits.
Then during the water committee roundtable, one of the things they brought up was emergency preparedness. And I texted Chris a question because I didn't know the answer to it. And unfortunately, he was a little busy. But I wanted to know how much we coordinate with our emergency planning department from Whatcom County. And I think that is something that I'm going to be looking at going forward in the future is some type of emergency preparedness planning, maybe even incorporating that as one aspect of our strategic plan, at least one component. And specifically things that I identified that I had questions about were how would a tsunami wave up the Nooksack River affect our plant? Especially plant one, right? Yeah, plant one. And at what height do we need to worry about that or not? And
So can I pause for a second there? So a Cascadia event, 9 to 10, whatever the forecast magnitude is, would generate a 4-foot tsunami up here. So we know that, and it wouldn't cause any damage to our facilities. We know that. There'd be some bank erosion. There would be, marinas would be damaged, docks, that were floating docks that don't quite float as smoothly as they should, things like that. There's going to be that kind of damage, but the damage here is going to be the shake, and it's going to be far worse than anything that the tsunami could cause.
I would just point out that Fukushima and Japan thought that they were prepared for the level of the tsunami, and that overrode a lot of their rules. So I think that counting on a 4-foot wave is something to really take into account as to whether it could be a 10-foot wave, it could be higher. So that's just my.
I would just say that the USGS were the ones who forecasted what all of the tsunami heights would be around the world, and they were correct. They correctly forecasted the Fukushima height, and they're the ones, not us, not the county. They're the ones who have said, here's what the height of the tsunami so their description was in Puget Sound, it's going to be like a bathtub of ripples going back and forth. And that it would start with a 4-foot wave and then it would decline over time. There's an exponential decline on the magnitude, the amplitude of the wave. So, I mean, we can look into that more, but this is something where the experts have already looked at and said, no, that's not the issue. It's the shake itself.
And then, thank you, Chris. And then one of the other points that came up was looking at are we going to be impacted by any utility relocation requirements with fish culvert and fish passages coming up? And then making,
So the answer there is no.
okay, all right, then that answers that.
Yeah,
And
we've been aware of that before I got here. I mean, that had been studied.
And then we also had a presentation, we talked about Energy Northwest, and that was a great conversation that went around the room. Kurt from the Poundere PUD is on the executive board, and then former Senator Tim Sheldon is also on the executive board, and he was there. And they have a lot of really interesting things going on out there at Energy Northwest. They're working on a solar project at Ruby Flats, and the permitting and BPA hookups are difficult. They're working with Westinghouse on a small nuclear reactor, more of a micro reactor for the airport, like that would power an Air Force base in Alaska. They're working on the small modular reactor at Site 1, part of the Whoops sites that were shut down many years ago, and it's a long process, and they got $10 million from PSE and $1 million from all the PUDs to work on that. And interestingly, they're working with a private company that they would only identify as a warehouse client to look at funding some of the startup costs for SMRs. And that's what I had from Energy Northwest. And I'll follow up with Energy Northwest's executive board is having a meeting, I believe it's tomorrow and Thursday. And I was invited to go over there, and I was hoping that I know Atul is our representative, and I think he probably is usually you Zoom into those, right?
Well, I, because of this year, I'm in campaign mode.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to travel there, but I was planning to Zoom in next system.
So I was wondering what the board thought of me attending in person.
Yeah, I have no issue with that.
I have no issue.
Okay.
I'd like to stay and still attend by remotely via Zoom.
Yeah.
And so we'll just talk a little bit about that because we're talking about expenses here. I'd be fine with both of us being able to per diem it. Of course, I'm not incurring any travel expenses, so obviously your travel expenses should be covered, but usually Energy Northwest covers the travel. Is that right, Chris?
You know, I've heard that, and that would make sense for a board of directors representative. So I would think that, Atul, if you were traveling, that would be what would cover an invited guest, unless they've extended the offer to cover the expenses. I think the travel expenses would be on us.
Okay.
But I don't know that for a fact.
I'm as speaking as a commissioner, I feel uncomfortable with approving it all. I think you're doing a great job, Todd, and I think that Commissioner Legacy, you're doing a great job, and I very much encourage you to engage. I mean, I feel like the PUD is getting its money's worth in this regard. In having an interim commissioner who's out there raising some of the questions I've raised, but this is valuable question asking and unique perspective, and it's valuable to me. So I support it.
I support it as well. I mean, to be fair, you have been, since I've been a commissioner, a very vocal critic of things that have to do with the PUD. And I would like to see you going out there and getting the same education opportunities as we do, so that moving forward, you'll know when you're being critical.
I hope my criticality is always taken as a positive, but I did also bring a few gifts that they were swag they were handing out. So apparently this is a fidget thing. If either of you want that, or there's a thermometer or a refrigerator. And I think this is like a nightlight that you plug in. So pick one and then
I want the nightlight.
you want the nightlight.
Yeah, Unless,
Uh,
do you want?
No, that's fine.
Do you want a fidget thing or a refrigerator?
Maybe it's gonna be my PUD fidget thing.
You want the PUD fidget thing?
Eh.
All right. Chris, if you want to put this in the staff, sorry, John, lawyers don't get prizes.
Nightlight.
Have those,
Or
but
take
those
it
are
home.
great.
So-
I use those. Put in the refrigerator.
And then, so thank you for your support on attending the Energy Northwest. And then another show and tell piece, I wanted to have us consider name tags. So I'm on a board of directors at a local credit union. We all have name tags. I think that it would be a positive step for the PUD commissioners, at least if we're attending these meetings to, do we need a motion to authorize you to,
I don't think so, because this is so small. We can just
Yeah.
take care of it.
okay.
Yeah, Laser Point's a good company to use too. I use them. Although I would just offer a suggestion that I would definitely prefer a pin instead of a magnet. Because magnets, sometimes you lose the back to them and then you're on the back
Okay,
that it's pinned instead of magnet.
all right.
Does anybody else care about that? I lose dang magnets all the time. I guess I talk about magnets.
Well, that was easy. Thank you.
Yeah, great, thank you.
And what was the name of the firm?
Laser
Local firm?
Point.
Laser Point.
They're local.
Okay, I'll do my commission report. So, let's see, we've got Energy Northwest this week. And then I don't think I have much. I don't see anything on my calendar for next week. I might be missing something. Oh, is next week PPC or is PPC canceled for?
I saw something
August.
from Crystal.
Is it okay if there's anything for PPC? I'll attend it.
I
but
think it
don't
was
think-
just virtual only
Yeah,
this
it's
time, but it was
virtual.
gonna
I do know it's
happen.
virtual only, but.
Yeah,
Okay. That's all I have.
That's it for you, okay? I know that I don't have any upcoming per diem requests, which is great. I did want to mention something about the whole clean energy credits debacle with the messaging that came up during government relations. So it's basically that the state is requiring that you put out this information about clean energy credits, but on there, it talks about the Climate Commitment Act and PUDs can't be, in favor of or against. A ballot initiative, now this is tricky though, a ballot initiative and use public resources for that. So that was the gist of the debacle at government relations. And they were supposed to meet with the governor's office to clear that up yesterday and they didn't.
yeah, it came out this morning, the
Yeah.
answer, and it was not an answer.
Yeah, it was not
was
an answer. So-
Just, here's the language to use.
Yeah, and they gave you like a sort of a short version, a shorter version, and the shortest version of sort of like, oh, this is what you could use.
Wasn't
Yeah,
me.
well, yeah, that's essentially what it was. It's like, this was put out by the state, like, we're not saying anything. And they, referred to, they said, obviously clear that with your own counsel. But I did want to say that same RCW, so we had spoken previously about a resolution in that was against the repeal of the Climate Commitment Act because it does impact our jurisdiction, especially with geothermal. And you're allowed to do that because we're a special purpose district. So our commission is still allowed to make a resolution and put it out there.
I still want to do that too.
Yeah, they specify that in the, right, John, am I right? And they specify that special purpose districts can put out resolutions if the ballot initiative affects their jurisdiction.
You can, you have to give time for both parties to speak to it. And
Uh-huh.
you can do a resolution.
Okay,
and we would want to craft that in advance.
I think that's.
So I
And then
think,
I just want to remind the commission that when we talked about this before, the real issue was not whether or not to do it, but when.
yes, that's
And,
correct.
Yeah, it was to get closer to the election so that it wasn't, old news, like 6 months old kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not so close that it didn't matter.
That's
So-
right. Yeah, I just,
And we should have enough advance notice so to give an invite to both sides to do it.
exactly. So that's what I wanted to talk to John about, like timing wise. We
If
want,
you were looking at a resolution, I don't know, say, first meeting in October, then
Yeah.
probably end of September, have the speakers here, and then you can invite the speakers and sit back, we can draft the
It
resolution.
was, should we do it as a special meeting or should we do it as a general meeting?
Either way, I'd probably do it as a general and just say 5-minute
Okay.
presentation.
so beginning of September, we want to invite people. So by the end of September, we have them speak and then we can draft a resolution in the beginning of October, which is great because it's around when ballots come out. Okay, that's our timeline.
This is great, and I'm glad, because I also wanted to, if I may.
Yeah.
If you bring up something, I've obviously been spending a lot of time out in the community. I've had hundreds and hundreds of conversations with people. And one of the things that's come up as the most repeated conversation that has struck me has been a misunderstanding on where we are with natural gas in the public. That's being propagated by certain people in the community, actually communicating that there is an effort to repeal or ban natural gas in our community. And I find nothing to indicate that in any form, draft legislation, past legislation. I'm not saying there's not, there might be individuals who have that, but I find that to be concerning, that there's this perception that there's an effort to ban natural gas. There's been some county council measures that have been introduced, alluding to that. And I just wanted to make sure that you all know, I wanted to let our group know that that's something that we can all work to re-educate and make people aware. And in fact, what's ironic is that natural gas companies themselves, Cascade Natural Gas, Puget Sound Energy themselves, are besides themselves with frustration over this perception or this communication. And they're not in agreement with it. So if there's anybody who would be embracing this polemic, it would be them, and they're not. And so I just wanted to share that. Yeah. And I don't know to what degree it makes sense to expand the scope more than Climate Commitment Act to address some of these county council measures that have that are being pushed forward to, for example, and also a statewide measure to undo some legislation that's beneficial to PSC and combining their electricity and gas IRPs. What's IRP mean, Chris? I forget.
That's the resource plan, integrated resource.
Integrated
plan.
resource plan, thank you. It's actually a benefit to the community that they have one roadmap. And it's a benefit to PSC. It reduces their bureaucratic complexity. Combining those two things is not a ban. That's for guys. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that up there too.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about natural gas. I don't give it much thought since I don't control that.
Yeah, we don't control that, and our PD has no influence on that. So maybe it's better to leave it out. But I just wanted to share.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't confuse topics.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I just want to share. It's gotten on my radar.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd much prefer to ignore it, but
You
can't.
But it's there.
you
Yeah.
can't. You
got
don't
it.
want to read it.
Okay, well, that's it for commissioner reports then. We have one more chance for public comments. We're all looking at you. Okay. Anyone online? I don't see any hands, so we will adjourn the public meeting. and go into a 10-minute executive session. We probably don't need a break since it's been short.
Yeah.
We should wrap up by 9:15.
Okay, we
Yep.
should wrap up at 9:15.
And they've got 60,000 residential customers
Yeah.
that it makes sense to market to, and
Yeah.
they've got other dimensions to their business that we don't.
So I did bring back, are we back?
We are back. It was
Oh,
9:25,
yeah,
right?
we're back.
Okay, we are back from executive session. No action was taken. If you want, you have something for the good of the order.
Good of the order, this is the handout, one of the handouts that I picked up
Okay.
down there. The provider of choice is they're going through the BPA contracts. So I didn't understand everything that was going there. It was very high level.
Trust me, nobody does.
But BPA basically has some different products that they're selling between slice, block, that type of stuff that doesn't necessarily impact us as much, but it was interesting. And lastly, I guess I forgot to point out the Pacific Core that runs the upper dam on the Cowlitz that provides the 200 and some megawatts. Apparently, they sell most of their power to California. So that was an interesting revelation that some of our clean hydro in this state is being shipped out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Not
Todd,
slump.
a lot of that is result of 30-year contracts.
Yep.
So this is not a decision that's made on a daily market basis. It's it's locked up long term.
For having to go through a lot of the problems, it just seems that there might be some easier solutions looking for it. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, it is 9:26 and we are adjourned.